I will see your answer at the end of the class. Okay. In today's class, we'll be covering the important topics. You must have seen the first page. On the first page, I've highlighted the list of topics that I will be covering. So the first topic is with respect to banking system liquidity. The second topic is with respect to India UK FTA, free trade agreement, right? Okay. Yeah, please come. So the first topic that we'll be covering is the topic of banking system liquidity. Second one will be the recent FTA signed between India and UK. Then the topic of land pooling policy. If you have been reading newspaper, you must have come across the land pooling policy of Punjab. It has become quite controversial in the context of the protests by the farmer groups. So we'll be discussing in detail about what exactly is land pooling policy, how is it different from land acquisition, benefits, challenges, all those things we'll be covering in the land pooling. Next is alternate investment fund, AIF. If you have seen this year prelims paper, in prelims there was a question on alternate investment fund. The question was, which among the following are part of AIF? This becomes important because recently RBI has come out with certain norms with respect to investment by RE. RE means regulated entities. Regulated entities are basically the banks and NBFCs. So it has come up with some guidelines with on investment by banks and NBFCs in alternate investment fund. Apart from that, generally what I have observed is when you read the newspaper, most of us tend to focus on the most burning topics. Take for example, India UK FTA, banking system liquidity and so on, such that we neglect the small topics. And these small topics may be important as far as your prelims examination is concerned. So in every current affairs class that I will be conducting, I will also be discussing the most important economic terms in news. For example, for this week, the two important terms that I will be covering here include CAT bonds, that is catastrophe bonds, and India International Investment Position, IIP. Have you heard of something called as balance of payment, BOP? Now this is something closely related to balance of payment. But how it is different from balance of payment, you'll understand as we progress our discussion. After this, in prelims 2025, there were two questions related to schemes. One scheme was Rashtriya Gokul Mission. It was asked because of the launch of White Revolution 2.0. The second scheme, which was also in news, was with respect to Pradhan Mantri Surya Ghar Muft Bijli Yojana. So in every current affairs class, we'll also focus upon important schemes in news as well. Like for this week, I have taken up three important schemes. Most of you may have heard about Pradhan Mantri Dhan Dhanya Krishi Yojana, which was already announced in the budget. But these two schemes are important. Revamped power distribution scheme. Have you heard of something called as Uday scheme? Ujjwal Discom Assurance Yojana. Already on Uday scheme, a question has been asked in prelims 2016. On similar lines, you may get question on this topic as well. On Atal Pension Yojana, question has already been asked. And similar to Atal Pension Yojana, there is another scheme, Pradhan Mantri Shram Yogi Mandan. On that scheme, question has been asked in prelims 2024. So we'll be covering these schemes in news as well. Let's start with the first topic, that is banking system liquidity. Okay. Okay. All of you just see here the topic of banking system liquidity. Before discussing this topic, let me just give you the background to banking system liquidity. The background first. If you go back to December 2024, in December 2024, the banking system liquidity declined to 15-year low, which is lowest in the last 15 years. Because the banking system liquidity reduced, RBI took some measures to enhance the banking system liquidity. I hope all of you must have heard about CRR, cash reserve ratio. CRR got reduced from 4.5% to 4%, so as to inject more liquidity into the economy. RBI also injected huge amount of money through OMO, open market operations. Not just that, RBI also conducted variable rate repo auctions. In a foundation class, you have heard about repo rate, right? Similar to that, we have another type of repo called as variable rate repo. By using these three tools, RBI injected money into the banking system, basically to address the problem of banking system liquidity. But the problem now is in July 2025, almost 7 to 8 months later, the situation has got reversed. Earlier, banking system liquidity had declined. Now, banking system liquidity has increased. It has increased to 3-year high in the recent times. I hope this part is clear to everyone. So from the perspective of your prelims examination, you should know what exactly do you mean by banking system liquidity. Can you see this question asked in prelims 2015? Option 4, what does it say? It may drastically reduce the liquidity to the banking system. Though so far UPSC has not directly asked a question on banking system liquidity, but banking system liquidity was one of the option in the previous year prelims. Any guesses? What do you think is the answer to this question? Prelims 2015. What do you think? Take your time, you can read. You have 1 minute, just take your time. When the RBI reduces SLR by 50 basis points, which of the following is likely to happen? Answer is C. Okay. What is SLR? SLR is basically the percentage of deposits which the bank will maintain with itself. In what form? Cash, gold, and government securities. If SLR reduces, what will happen is banks will have more money to give loans. Is this part clear? More money to give loans. If it has more money to give loans, rate of interest on loans is likely to reduce. If rate of interest on loans reduces, what will happen to investment in the economy? Investment will increase. If investment increases, what is likely to happen is GDP is also likely to increase. Generally, whenever the economy is facing, yes, recession, slowdown, the RBI will reduce the policy rate. See the first option. India's GDP growth increases drastically. Is this part clear? It says what? Drastically, because the word is very extreme, that India's GDP will increase drastically. The first one is wrong. And the C option, that is scheduled commercial banks may cut their lending rates. But had the word drastically is not there, then if drastically word is not mentioned, then what do you think will be the right answer? C or A? How many of you think answer would be A? No one? You still think answer is C? Why? Why do you think answer is still C? Yes? Okay, he says GDP growth rate may or may not increase. If you see option C is not that assertive. Option C says may reduce. It says scheduled commercial bank may cut their lending rates. I hope you understood. Okay, let's add another complication. And just doing permutation combination. Do not worry, UPSC is not going to trouble you with those kind of options. I'm just trying to trouble you with those kind of options. Option A says India's GDP growth rate may increase. Option C says rate of interest on loans may reduce. In that case, why still C? Always understand in UPSC prelims, unless and otherwise stated, you should always see the immediate effect. Look at the flowchart. Reduction in SLR will have immediate effect on what first? Rate of interest. And then what comes later? GDP. So you should see the immediate effect. And when you see the immediate effect, what is the right answer in this case? The right answer is still C only. You know where people go wrong? People go wrong because they tend to overthink in the prelims paper. So always remember this as a rule, that you should look at the immediate effect only. Is this part clear? Okay. Let's look at this controversial question which was asked in prelims 2024. It is also related to your topic of banking system liquidity. Here it is saying that NBFCs have access to liquidity adjustment facility, LAF window. I'll just tell you what it is. Later you tell me what is the statement, whether the statement is right or wrong. When we say LAF includes repo, it includes MSF, and now it includes SDF. I hope everyone must have studied this in your foundation. MSF, SDF, and repo. All of this constitutes the liquidity adjustment facility. Who can avail liquidity adjustment facility? Okay, please pay attention. In India, you have a category of entities which we call them as what? Primary dealers. Who are these primary dealers, by the way? Primary dealers comprises of two types of entities. One is bank primary dealers. Second type is non-bank primary dealers. And when we say primary dealer, these are the entities to whom RBI has given a license to purchase government securities directly from the RBI in the primary market. So let's say I'm RBI. There's a platform of the RBI which is called as e-Kuber platform. On this e-Kuber platform, I as a RBI, I will be selling the government securities. You know, RBI sells the government securities on behalf of the government. Let's say I am selling this government security. Who can purchase this government security? Not any random entity. Only those entities to whom I have given a license. Only they can purchase the government securities from me. All those entities, they are the members of e-Kuber platform. Those entities, what are they called as? They're called as primary dealers. There are two types of primary dealer. Bank primary dealer. It means when any entity gets a license for bank, by default, they also get a license of what? Primary dealer. So all the banks that you can think of, SBI, ICICI, HDFC, Kotak, all these banks, they are also what? Bank primary dealers. Who are these non-bank primary dealers? Non-bank primary dealers could be NBFCs. Is that part clear? Who are these NBFCs? Have you heard of something called as ICICI Securities? Or for that matter, Kotak Securities? These are not banks, understand that. What are they? They are NBFCs, non-banking financial companies. Is this part clear, everyone? So let's say here, this is the primary dealers which includes NBFCs. But what you should know is NBFC is a much larger category. NBFC is a larger category. Within NBFC, what we have? We have a separate category of NBFCs which are called as what? Primary dealers. Can you give me some examples of NBFCs, categories of NBFCs in India? Some categories of NBFCs. You're not studied about NBFCs? You have good. You have one category called as account aggregators. Then? Okay, not a problem. We have a big category of NBFCs, which includes investment and credit companies. Example of which is, have you heard of Manappuram Gold Loan Company? Yes? You must have heard of that, right? Look at the name, investment and credit company. What are they doing? They are giving loans. Then you have another category called as core investment companies. Then you have another category called as account aggregators. Then you have another category called as MFIs, microfinance institutions. Has anyone heard about Annapurna Microfinance, or for that matter, Muthoot Microfinance? It's an example of that NBFC. So NBFC is not one homogeneous category. It is a heterogeneous category. Among that, there is one category of NBFC whom we call them as what? Whom we call them as primary dealers. What are these primary dealers basically doing? They are investing in government securities. And these primary dealers also have access to LAF window. They can borrow money from RBI under repo. They can borrow money from RBI under MSF. And they can also deposit money with the RBI under SDF. Clear with this point? So, primary dealers are basically those entities who have got the license from the RBI to purchase government securities in the primary market. Directly they can purchase the government securities. And primary dealers also have access to LAF window. Getting this? So in prelims 2020, recent prelims, there was a statement. The statement was NBFCs have access to LAF window. What do you think? The statement is right or wrong? I'm repeating once again. NBFCs can access the LAF window. Why do you think it is right? Why do you think it's wrong? Okay, understand this. These categories of NBFCs, they do not have access to LAF window. Only who can access LAF window? Primary dealers. In UPSC, the question was NBFCs can access LAF window. There are two ways of interpreting this. When I say NBFCs can access LAF window, if I interpret this in a much wider way, thinking all the categories of NBFCs, can they access LAF window? They cannot access LAF window. But if I think this in a very narrow perspective, from narrow perspective, I'm thinking only about primary dealers. Can they access LAF window? Yes. Depending upon how you think, your statement could either be right or wrong. Is this part clear? What do you think UPSC must have thought of in this answer? I'll just show you the question. Just see the question, prelims 2024. In India, NBFCs can access the liquidity adjustment window of RBI. If you look at the options, you cannot get the right answer unless you know whether statement 1 is right or wrong. According to UPSC, UPSC says the answer is 1, 2, and 3. The question was controversial because most of the students had marked the answer as 2 and 3 only and not 1, 2, and 3. And if you ask my personal opinion on this, I would still go with the answer of 2 and 3 only. I would not choose 1, 2, and 3. The reason why I would mark the option 1 as incorrect is because it says in India, NBFCs can access LAF window. NBFC is not a homogeneous group. It is a heterogeneous group. They cannot access LAF window. Primary dealers are accessing LAF window not because they are NBFCs. Understand that. Primary dealers are accessing LAF window because they are primary dealers in the first place. So by that logic, this statement should have been wrong. Is that part clear? So in recent years, last 1 or 2 years, there have been such questions which have been proved very controversial. And unfortunately, UPSC has given wrong answer for that. I hope this part is clear to everyone. Okay. Apart from these two, you could see you have other questions also, previous year question. Prelims 2020, prelims 2023, prelims 2012, 15, 2013, 14. I will be sharing the PPT at the end of the class. Please try to solve all the PYQs related to liquidity in the economy. So let's start with the topic of banking system liquidity. Okay. Please pay attention. Let's say this is a particular bank. Bank is accepting certain deposits. After accepting deposit, bank maintains some percentage of deposits with the Reserve Bank of India. What do we call this as? It is called as CRR. Some percentage of deposits the bank will maintain it with itself. That, as you know, we call it as SLR, statutory liquidity ratio. When it is maintaining it with the RBI, it is always maintained in what form? Cash. When it is maintaining with itself, it can be the form of cash, gold, or government securities. After keeping reserves, the bank as such may have some surplus money. Why do you think this excess money the bank may have with itself? Why is keeping the surplus money with itself? One, as he says, because bank needs to give out loans, right? So one thing, the excess money may be used to give out loans. Second, you must also understand, if depositors are depositing money, depositors will also ask for their money back. So the bank will also keep some money to meet its obligation towards depositors, if depositors want to withdraw the money. So far, so clear? So when we say banking system liquidity, please write on the definition, then I'll explain. Banking system liquidity refers to the cash. Banking system liquidity refers to the cash slash liquid assets which the banks maintain in excess of their reserves, in order to number one, give loans, and second, meet obligation towards the depositors. Okay, so please underline that word. It should be either in the form of what? Cash or liquid assets. What do you mean by liquid assets? Liquid assets, as a name suggests, it is something which can be easily converted into cash. What can be a liquid asset for the bank? It can be gold, it can be government security, or it could be even corporate bond also. It has to be either in the form of cash or liquid assets. Do we include SLR as part of banking system liquidity? SLR is not included as banking system liquidity because by its very definition, what is banking system liquidity? It is in excess of the reserve requirement. So whatever is the excess of CRR, SLR, and that excess should be in what form? Cash or liquid assets. That is banking system liquidity. Okay, please think here. I'm giving you 30 seconds. Let's say the reserve requirement increases. It means CRR and SLR both increase. Take your time, 30 seconds. Tell me what will happen to banking system liquidity here. Yes, it should decrease. So if the reserve requirement increases, it means banks would keep more money in the form of what? In the form of reserves, either with the RBI or with themselves. If they keep more money in the form of reserves, banks would have less money. And because banks have less money, we could say banking system liquidity will reduce. Contrary, if reserve requirement reduces, banks will keep less money in the form of reserves. Banks will have more amount of money with themselves. The banking system liquidity will increase. So please write down. Banking system liquidity is inversely proportional to banking system liquidity is inversely proportional to reserve ratio. Banking system liquidity is inversely proportional to reserve ratios. Increase in reserve ratio decreases the banking system liquidity. Increase in reserve ratio decreases the banking system liquidity, and vice versa. Okay. Please see here, prelims 2015 question. If the SLR is reduced by 50 basis points, 50 basis point means 0.50. If SLR reduces, what will happen to banking system liquidity? Banking system liquidity will increase. यहाँ पे क्या लिखा है? It will reduce. That is why it is wrong. Okay. Next, interpretation of banking system liquidity. Let's understand the interpretation. Okay. How do you know whether the banking system liquidity is in deficit or whether it is in surplus? How do you interpret the banking system liquidity? That is what we are going to cover. You can just see this diagram. You have a particular bank and you have the Reserve Bank of India. On a given day, let's say today, the bank is, for example, depositing more money with RBI. What is the tool through which banks will deposit money with the RBI? Apart from CRR. There is something called as reverse repo, right? There is something called as reverse repo. It's a tool through which banks will maintain their surplus deposit with the RBI, deposits more money with the RBI under reverse repo. Okay. Now look at this. Based upon this, can you tell me what do you think could be the cause? What do you think could be the cause for this? Banking system liquidity is higher or lower? The main cause here is banking system liquidity is higher. When the banking system liquidity is higher, bank will deposit more money with the RBI. But what do you think will be the effect of it? Banking system liquidity, effect on banking system liquidity. Banking system liquidity will reduce. I hope you are understanding the difference between cause and effect. Let's say I am a bank, I am depositing more money with the RBI. What's the cause? Because I have more amount of money. But once I deposit money, what will happen to banking system liquidity? It will reduce. Same logic, if you could apply, you have bank which is taking more loans from RBI under repo. If it is taking more loans from the RBI under repo, Cause in this particular case is banking system liquidity is lower. Because banks have less amount of money, that is why they are taking loans. But if you see the effect of this, because they are taking loans, what will happen to banking system liquidity? It will increase. You know where people get confused? People get confused in cause and effect. Is the logic clear, everyone? Okay. This is how you need to interpret the banking system liquidity. Now, what are we saying? Banking system liquidity in the economy has increased. It has increased means what is happening here? If it has increased means basically the banks are depositing more money with the RBI. Yes. Huh. Security B? But it is not belonging to the bank, right? It is not the banks. It is like RBI is keeping a collateral with the bank. It should be owned by the bank. Yes, it should be owned by the bank. Okay. Is this part clear to everyone? Okay. So this is how you interpret the banking system liquidity. If you look at the significance of banking system liquidity, think of it and tell me, whenever there is a inflation in the economy, during inflation, what should happen to banking system liquidity? There's already an inflation. I am RBI. What should I do to banking system liquidity? Should I increase it or decrease it? I should reduce the banking system liquidity. RBI should reduce the banking system liquidity. On the other hand, if there is a slowdown or recession, what should I do is I should increase the banking system liquidity. Is this part clear to everyone? So please write down that second one. I hope you have written down the interpretation from the diagram. Has everyone taken down the diagram? Okay, good. And write the significance also. During inflation, the banking system liquidity should reduce. During inflation, banking system liquidity should reduce. And during slowdown, banking system liquidity should increase. Yeah. Excess banking system liquidity will lead to inflation. And lower banking system liquidity will lead to slowdown. Okay, fine. Let's now get into the next part, that is factors affecting banking system liquidity. What are the factors? Okay, I hope everyone has taken down. Let's look at the first factor. The first factor which affects the banking system liquidity is the demand for currency. This is the first factor. Let's understand how it affects the banking system liquidity. Let's say the demand for currency in the economy increases. If it increases, it means people will withdraw more money from the banks. If people withdraw more money from the banks, it means less money will be available with the banks. Banking system liquidity in this particular case, क्या होगा? It will reduce. On the other hand, if demand for currency decreases, in that particular case, people will withdraw less money. If they withdraw less money, we could say more money will be available with the banks. So banking system liquidity will increases. Now let's say there is a festival season. Think of it. Let's say Dashara, Diwali and so on. During festival season, what will happen to demand for currency? During festival season, the demand for currency will increase, because of which the banking system liquidity might reduce. If there is a kind of slowdown in the economy, when people's demand for goods and services is less, tab kya hoga? Banking system liquidity might, the demand for currency might reduce. I hope you understood the logic, everyone. It's quite easy. Okay. So this is the first factor which affects the banking system liquidity. Second factor, please write down parallelly. Second factor is credit deposit ratio. Okay, let's look at this word, credit to deposit ratio. In economy, whenever you come across the word ratio, the best way to interpret the word ratio is whatever is the first term, make that first term as numerator. Whatever is the second term, make that second term as what? Denominator. Credit to deposit. Easy. So bank is accepting deposit, same deposit it is giving out in the form of loans. That is what is credit to deposit. Think of it. Bank gives more credit, and let's say there is less deposit with the bank. Take your time. Banks gives more credit, numerator value will increase. Banks are accepting less deposit, denominator value will reduce. In that particular case, credit deposit ratio will increase. What do you think will happen to banking system liquidity now? Banking system liquidity will reduce. Same way, if bank gives less credit, less loans, but banks are accepting more deposits, in that particular case, credit deposit ratio will reduce. Banks are given more loans, less deposits. In that particular case, banking system liquidity will increase. Demand for currency and banking system liquidity, how are they related to each other? Directly proportional or inversely proportional? Inversely proportional. Credit deposit ratio and banking system liquidity, directly or inversely? Inversely proportional. Both are inversely proportional. यहां तक क्लियर है सबको? नो डाउट्स? ओके. हाँ. Can it go? It's quite impossible. But I'll tell you, credit deposit ratio, we generally express this in terms of percentage. Think, can this credit deposit ratio be more than 100%? Take your time. Can it be more than 100%? If it is more than 100%, what would it mean? It would mean something like this. Credit may be 120, deposit might be 100, into 100, credit deposit ratio may increase to 120. Is it a possibility? A big yes. How? Look at this scenario. Bank, how much loans it has given? 120. But how much is the deposit? 100. How can it give more loans as compared to deposits? Yes, very good. You must understand, banks are not just taking the depositors' money to give out loans. Banks may take loans from the RBI as well. In certain cases, banks will also take loan by issuing a bond. They issue bond, borrow money, and that borrowed money they are giving in the form of loans. So it is quite possible that credit deposit ratio could be more than 100%. This becomes important because last year, some of the small finance banks in India, you must have heard about small finance bank like AU Small Finance Bank, Ujjivan Small Finance Bank. For the small finance bank, this credit deposit ratio had increased to 110%. It had increased. Is this part clear to everyone? Okay. Yes. Huh. Huh. It is still, deposit is a stock. Deposit is always 10 in that particular case. It will be 8 by 10. Yeah. Because deposit is in your name, loan is in my name. Bank will take your deposit and give it to me. But your deposit will not vanish, na? Your deposit will still be there because it's a stock. Is this part clear? Uh, it is not, it's just an exception. You must understand. It's an exception, it's not a norm. Presently, if you see the credit deposit ratio of Indian economy, it is hovering somewhere between 75 to 80%. It is that presently. But there are certain exceptions. There are certain banks whose credit deposit ratio is also more than 100%. Like small finance banks. They have taken loans from bond market. That loan, they have given it in the form of loans. Next is, okay, these two things are clear to everyone? Okay, now the third thing, which is a little complicated. Yeah. It's obviously unhealthy. Okay. Next one is RBI's steps to control exchange rate volatility. That is a next factor. Please pay attention. You have to think along with me in the form of flow chart. Let's say there is shortage of dollars in the economy. If there is shortage of dollars, what will happen to dollar value? Dollar value will increase and rupee value would undergo depreciation. Rupee value will fall. If the rupee value falls, the biggest problem that Indian economy could face is imports into India may become costly, which may lead to a classical problem which is called as imported inflation. For example, let's say earlier $1 was equal to 60. Now $1 has become equal to 70. Let's say I'm importing this marker from US. Cost of this marker is $1. To import this $1 worth marker, how much rupees was I paying actually? 60. Now how much I'm paying? 70. What has happened to the cost of marker in India? It has increased. What is this called as? Imported inflation. So here RBI must control rupee depreciation. For example, let's say this is RBI and let's say this is a bank. To the bank, RBI will sell dollar. I am RBI, you are the bank. I will sell dollar to you. Obviously, I'm not going to give you dollar free of cost. Na? If I'm giving you dollar, I'll take something from you. What do you think I will take in return? Rupees. I will take out, let's say in this particular case, I will take out, for example, 70 rupees. Just an example. Because of this action, what will happen to dollar supply in the economy? Dollar supply will increase, because of which dollar value will reduce. Dollar value is reducing, means what will happen to value of rupee? But we'll not call it as appreciation. What we'll call this as? Anyone? Rupee value is increasing, but it is not increasing automatically by itself. Rupee value is increasing because RBI is increasing its value. It is called as revaluation. Good. This will lead to what is called as revaluation. But my focus is on this side. My focus is on this side. I am RBI, I have sold dollar, I have taken out rupees. Rupee supply with the bank is reducing. If the rupee supply reduces, what will happen to banking system liquidity? Banking system liquidity will reduce. So can you see, whenever RBI takes some steps to control the rupee depreciation, what has happened to banking system liquidity? Banking system liquidity is reducing. Please have a look at the flow chart. Everyone is clear with this? Don't we call? Dollar is not liquid, na? Dollar is not freely used in the Indian economy. So when you might say ki bank is giving rupee, in return it is getting dollar, but that dollar we don't count it as part of banking system liquidity. It's not very liquid as rupees that way. Is this part clear, everyone? Can you make a similar flowchart for rupee appreciation? You can make it. Please do that quickly for rupee appreciation as well. For rupee appreciation, the flowchart would be surplus dollars, dollar value will reduce. Take your time. Imports become cheaper. If imports become cheaper, it's good, na? Okay, you're thinking from the perspective of exporter, but at the same time, if imports become cheaper, don't you think it is going to affect our domestic manufacturing? We will prefer to import iPhone into India rather than manufacturing iPhone, right? Imports will become cheaper, it will have an effect on manufacturing. That is why RBI must control the rupee appreciation. So to control appreciation, what will RBI do? RBI will take out dollar and inject rupees. What will happen to banking system liquidity there? It will increase. Okay. Yes. Yeah. I understand. Huh. Yeah. There's a primary difference between appreciation and revaluation. Appreciation is if the value of rupee increases because of market forces or demand and supply, where we don't intervene. Revaluation is when RBI is artificially increasing the value of rupee, as we have seen here. दोनों का effect same है, but cause अलग है. Market forces की वजह से अगर रुपये का value बढ़ेगा, appreciation. RBI's intervention, then it is called as revaluation. Okay, understood? RBI indirectly intervenes and it fixes the value. Indirectly fixes. That is why it is called as revaluation. When RBI is, selling dollar, it will fix as to at what price it will sell the dollar, so that it is targeting a particular exchange rate. Okay. So recently it has become a bone of contention between IMF and the India. IMF has accused India that repeatedly are intervening in your forex market. That is why the value of rupee, if you see in the last 1 year, it is hovering just between 80 to 85. It has not dropped to below 85 because RBI is ensuring that it remains in this narrow corridor of 80 to 85. That's why we call it as revaluation. Exactly. China, it is devaluation. Yeah, exactly. Huh. Yeah, we'll come to that. That's a different topic. But यहाँ पे what will happen is rupee value appreciates, then our exports will become uncompetitive. Exporters will not earn good amount of money. Huh. Huh? Then when should we consider? I'll bring all of this in one particular place, then you'll get the complete picture. Just give me 1 minute. Okay. Now, I think in your handout, I have mentioned the reasons for decrease in banking system liquidity, right? So please pay attention. यहाँ पे decrease in banking system liquidity in December 2024. Why did banking system liquidity reduce? You know the factors? Can you tell me what is the first factor affecting banking system liquidity? Demand for currency. Something was around the corner in December 2024. What is it? Festival season was around the corner. Dashera, Diwali, all that festival is around the corner. So, number one is there was increase in demand for currency during a festival season. And remember, we covered that demand for currency and banking system liquidity, they are inversely proportional. That's reason number one. Reason number two. The second factor that I discussed is what? Credit deposit ratio. Okay. Second factor is increase in credit deposit ratio. But why? Let's understand. Why did credit deposit ratio increase? Number one, credit increased. But the question here is, to whom did the banks give out more amount of loans? If you have been following newspaper, you must have heard that in the last 1 to 1.5 years, banks have been giving out more amount of unsecured loans. What is unsecured loan? Loan which is given without any kind of collateral. For what purpose it is giving? It is basically giving those unsecured loans to people so as to enable them to purchase consumer durables like laptops, washing machine, TVs, etc. So credit increased because there was increase in the overall unsecured loans. It is being said that they increased to almost 1/3 of the total loans. Is this part clear? Second, what do you think may have happened to deposits? Deposits got reduced. But kyun? Why did deposits reduce? It is independent of credit, understand. It is not related to credit. Festival season तो already हमने यहाँ पे use कर लिया. Yes? Okay, I'll just tell you why deposits reduced. This is something which economic survey has also highlighted this time. What India is witnessing financialization of economy. Financialization of economy basically means now more number of people are investing in share market. More number of people are investing in mutual funds. Earlier, when I wanted to save money, I used to save money only in the form of deposits with the banks. Now, what are people doing? They're not just saving that money in the form of deposits, they are also investing that money in the form of share market. They're also investing money in the form of mutual funds. You must have heard of SIP. Mutual fund sahi hai, right? So that's why, mostly a lot of people are investing in mutual funds. It is being said that the number of demat accounts in India has increased to 18 crore. 18 crore demat accounts. Every month, the monthly SIP has crossed 25,000 crores. This money was earlier put into what? Banks, but that money is getting shifted towards share market. So deposits have reduced because of diversion of deposits towards capital market. And third and very important reason, I told you, whenever RBI is trying to control the exchange rate volatility, it affects the banking system liquidity. Last year, the rupee value was on a free fall. Rupee value was rapidly depreciating. And RBI repeatedly was selling dollars from our forex reserves to control the rupee depreciation. It is being said last year, RBI sold around $90 billion worth forex reserves in the market. 90 billion. By selling dollar, it was trying to increase the dollar supply. Dollar supply increases means what will happen to dollar value? Dollar value reduces, rupee value will increase. It was repeatedly involved in rupee revaluation. Because of rupee revaluation, one positive thing was rupee value did not fall. But what is the negative thing of that? Banking system liquidity reduced. So RBI's intervention to control rupee depreciation. I told you, the decrease in banking system liquidity was its lowest in the last 15 years. That cannot be explained only by festival season. Na? Festival season to har saal aata hai. So that is not the reason. What is more important reason is, I would say, deposits reduced, diversion of deposits towards capital market. And the second one, which is more important, is this reason. Is this part clear? To control this decrease in banking system liquidity, RBI took some steps. Step number one is RBI reduced CRR, cash reserve ratio. Second is RBI conducted open market operations. There's an alternate word to open market operation. Anyone knows? It was asked in prelims 2023. Yes, it is called as sterilization. Good. This was asked in prelims 2023. Then RBI also conducted variable rate repo auctions to inject liquidity. Okay, fine. Now let's see what has happened now. Now from decrease in banking system liquidity, the problem has got reversed when there is a increase in banking system liquidity. You know the factors. You tell me why the banking system liquidity has increased now. Take your time. What could be the reason? Biggest reason. Hint. The answer is in front of you, board. Yes? Very good. One of the biggest reason is of these measures. Ideally, by undertaking these measures, banking system liquidity should have got stabilized. But instead of getting stabilized, RBI injected more amount of money than what it was needed. So that is why the banking system liquidity has increased. That is reason number one. Reason number two, I'll dictate this, just pay attention. Every year, RBI earns profit from its management of operations. This year, RBI has earned record profit of 2.7 lakh crore. Whatever profit RBI earns, to whom does the RBI transfer the profits? It transfers to the government. And suddenly, government को ज़्यादा पैसा आ गया. Government eyes lit up. Government thought, if you have got more amount of money, why not spend that particular money? Already there was a problem where RBI injected more amount of money than what was needed. And that problem was further compounded by excessive government expenditure. So rather than RBI and government coming together, coordinating with each other to ensure that there's adequate liquidity in the economy, both of them ended up increasing the liquidity such that now the liquidity has increased to 3-year high. I hope you understood this. So please write down reasons for increase in banking system liquidity. Number one, reasons for increase in banking system liquidity in July 2025. Okay, some of you might find it comfortable to write down the notes in the handout. But if you think that the space is not sufficient enough, you could write it in your own copy as well. Okay. Reasons for increase in banking system liquidity. Number one, steps taken by the RBI. Steps taken by the RBI, such as reduction in CRR, such as reduction in CRR, OMOs, variable rate repo auctions, variable rate repo auctions. Next point, record transfer of dividend, record transfer of dividend worth 2.7 lakh crore, worth 2.7 lakh crore from the RBI, to the government, from the RBI to the government. Steps taken. Next one. Now, what step do you think RBI is taking now? Last time it decided to increase the liquidity, inject liquidity. Now what is RBI doing? RBI is sucking out liquidity. To suck out liquidity, what is a tool which the RBI is using now? Variable rate reverse repo auction. Please write. Variable rate reverse repo, variable rate reverse repo auctions. Last time, what auction it RBI carried out? Variable rate repo auction. Now it is carrying out variable rate reverse repo auctions. In next 10 minutes, I'm quickly going to discuss what is variable rate repo and what is variable rate reverse repo in the next 10 minutes. So please pay attention. Do not write anything. It is there in the board. Okay. Please see here. I just want to make one thing very clear. All of you have studied repo rate in your foundation class. In simple words, repo rate means banks, whenever they need money, they borrow money from RBI. How much interest the banks pay to the RBI, that is what is called as repo rate. I'm not discussing repo rate. What am I discussing? I'm discussing repo. My idea is not to make you understand repo rate. My idea is to make you understand repo. What's the difference? Repo rate is basically the rate of interest at which banks borrow money from RBI. Repo is basically the tool through which banks borrow money from RBI. That's the basic difference. I'm not discussing rate of interest, I'm discussing the tool. How does it work? We can see. Let's say a bank wants to borrow 100 rupees for a period of 14 days. The bank will borrow 100 rupees from the RBI. But to borrow that 100 rupees, the bank will sell government security worth 100 rupees. What is the bank doing by selling government security to the RBI? It is keeping that government security as a collateral with the RBI. It is borrowing 100 rupees. This is the first leg of the transaction which happens on the first day. What's the duration of repo? 14 days. You have the second leg of the transaction which happens on the 14th day. On the 14th day, the bank will repurchase the government security. What is the value of government security? 100 rupees. But it is not purchasing it at 100. It will purchase it at what? 104. By purchasing at 104, bank will repay the borrowed money. How much is the borrowed money? 100. And how much interest it is paying? 4. So यहाँ पे repo rate क्या है? 4%. But what is this tool called as? Repo tool. Is this part clear? Okay. Now, keeping this in mind, let's understand what exactly is variable rate repo. Okay, please see here. There is step 1. To make you understand this, let's say I am the Reserve Bank of India. In step 1, I as an RBI will issue a notification on the RBI's website. In this notification, I will simply say 2 things. Number 1, how much money I am willing to lend to you guys. And second, for how long I will lend the money. So let's say on this notification, I'm saying I will lend you 100 rupees for 14 days. What is remaining? Duration I have said. I have said the amount. What else is remaining? Rate of interest. I will not mention the rate of interest. What will happen to rate of interest is I will ask you guys to place a bid. At what rate you want to borrow money from me? In other words, if you want to borrow 100 rupees from me, you have to tell me how much interest you are willing to pay to me. Obviously, there will be not one bank, there will be multiple banks. So let's carry out a small exercise in the class. Bid now. Anyone wants to start the bid? Bulli lagao. Huh? 1%. She says 1%. But I still have a problem with her bid, 1%. Why? No, let's concentrate on her bid. He says 1%, but I still have problem with 1%. Why? Why are you asking for 1%? Did anyone ask you that you should ask only for 1%? Don't you think it is much easier if you guys bid for 0% rate of interest? That is much more easier, na? Why ask for 1%? You ask for 0%. Do you understand what I'm trying to say? I am also very clever. I know कि if I ask you guys to place a bid, you'll ask, give me loans at 0%. But you might say, so not everyone will ask for 0%, some might ask for 0%. You might form a cartel. All of you may come together, form a cartel and say, no one will ask for more than 0%. I'm also very clever. So what I will say, place your bid. Place your bid. Bid rate cannot be equal to or less than the repo rate. I repeat, bid rate cannot be what? Equal to or less than repo rate. What is the repo rate now? 5.5. Now it is 5.5. Can you ask for 5.4 now? Can you ask for 5.5? You cannot ask for 5.5 also. One entity will ask for 5.6. Another entity will ask for 5.7. Third one will ask for 5.8. So to whom should I lend the loans? To the highest bidder. Who is asking for highest rate of interest? 5.8. To that particular bank, I will allocate the repo. So what is the rate of interest on variable rate repo? Is it equal to repo rate, less than repo rate, or always more than repo rate? Always more than repo rate. I hope you understood the concept of variable rate repo, everyone. So that is what is the steps involved. You can just go through this later. But some people will still have certain doubts. Let's look at the doubts of the people. Because you guys did not get doubt, let me put doubt in your mind and then answer that doubt. I'll come to that. I'll come to that. Good that you asked. Okay. This is doubt number 1. I have read that RBI gives loans to banks below the repo rate under variable rate repos. There are so many people who have repeatedly told me, sir, I have read in so-and-so website, in so-and-so source, that the rate of interest on variable rate repo is always less than repo rate. Please go and check RBI's website, notification. Go back today, open the RBI website. On the notification, there's a separate tab, variable rate repo. In that, you'll get to know the actual mechanism. There, RBI clearly mentions that if someone is placing a bid below repo rate, they will be rejected. This is the first point. Second point. Okay. Please see here. First leg. Bank is borrowing money. After borrowing money, what is happening to money supply? Increases. Second leg, bank is repaying back the borrowed money along with the interest. What is happening to money supply? Decrease. So some people have this doubt. At the end of the second leg, money supply decreases. Then why does RBI say that repo is used to inject liquidity? Huh? Bank will? ठीक है, I understand. But at the end of which, bank will always give back more amount of money, na? You are a bank. From me, you have taken 100 rupees. But you are giving me back how much rupees? 104. You will have less amount of money ultimately at the end of repo. Then why is RBI saying that repo is used to inject liquidity then? Okay, always remember, if you come across any tool in which there are 2 legs of transaction. How many legs of transactions are there? 1 and 2. Never ever see what is happening after the second leg of the transaction. Always see what is happening immediately after the first leg of the transaction. Always. Immediately after the first leg of the transaction, what is happening? Money supply is increasing. So that is what? Second. What are the different durations of repo? For how long can the RBI gives loan? It can give loan for 2 days, 7 day, 14 day, 28 day, and the highest which RBI has gone so far in the recent days is up to how many days? 56 days. Last one, is repo always used for short-term liquidity less than 1 year? It's true or false? Not necessarily, because during COVID, RBI used repo for long-term injection. Like during COVID, RBI used a tool called as long-term repos, whose duration was 1 to 3 years. RBI is used to long-term liquidity for more than 1 year, as seen during COVID. समझ में आया सबको? हाँ. हाँ. Yeah, for 14 days. We're not seeing what is happening after 14 day. We are saying from 1st to 14th day, what has happened to liquidity. For 1st to 14th day, the liquidity has increased. That's what RBI sees. So far, so clear, everyone? Huh. RBI, it's not that you have a discretion. Understand? It's not that you have a discretion ki you can come to me and ask me ki give me loans under fixed rate repo or variable rate repo. You have to wait for my notification. And I'll not come up with notification for fixed rate repo only. I'll come up with notification only for variable rate repo. You don't have any choice in that case. So far, so clear? What do you think is about variable rate reverse repo then? Take your time. Variable rate reverse repo. What do you think that rate of interest would be in variable rate reverse repo? Less than reverse repo rate or less than repo rate? Okay. What is the present reverse repo rate, anyone? The present reverse repo rate is 3.35%, which was fixed during COVID-19 pandemic. Since then, reverse repo is no longer used. Because it is no longer used, the variable rate reverse repo rate is always below the repo rate. Please have a look at this. Take your time, everyone. In case of variable rate reverse repo, RBI will issue notification that I am willing to accept deposit from you. I will say I'm willing to accept deposit of 100 crore for 14 days. And I will ask you guys to place a bid. Now you have to place a bid saying that this is the interest which I would want you to pay. How much interest I should pay? People will ask for 100%. People will ask for 2000%. So there is a problem. So what I will do as a RBI is, I will say you cannot ask for a rate of interest which is at or more than the existing repo rate. So bid rate cannot be equal to or more than repo rate. What is the present repo rate now? 5.5. So now 5.4, 5.1, 5. Who is asking for least amount of interest? 5. So from whom will I accept the loans? Deposits from 5. Is this part clear? So think of it. If I am RBI and if you are a bank, if I am giving you loans under variable rate repo, the rate of interest on that loan will always be more than what? Repo rate. If I am RBI and if I am accepting deposits from you under variable rate reverse repo, the interest which I will pay to you will always be below, yes, repo rate. In other words, I will never ever give you loans below repo rate, and I will never ever accept deposits from you at more than repo rate. That is why Repeatedly you must have heard of this term, na? Ki repo is called as what? Benchmark. I hope now you understood why it is called as benchmark. Everyone? Okay. Just see here. You must have this question then. In case of variable rate repo, rate of interest cannot be lower than repo rate. Then in case of variable rate reverse repo, shouldn't the rate of interest be linked to reverse repo? Logically तो एक question है. The reverse repo rate is now 3.35% and has become almost defunct. It is no longer used. Reverse repo tool is important. But what has become defunct? The reverse repo rate has become defunct. You can just see the other things. Look at the last one. Is reverse repo always used for sucking out short-term liquidity less than 1 year? Yes. As of now, it is always used for sucking out liquidity for short term. For repo, RBI had introduced long-term repo, but for reverse repo, RBI has so far not introduced long-term reverse repo. Reverse repo as of now is only short term. Take your time. Any doubts in variable rate repo and reverse repo? Okay. If you are clear with this, I have to go beyond the scope of our discussion. We have LAF window. Under LAF window, you have repo rate, you have MSF, and you have SDF. Repo rate is, for example, 5.50. What happens to MSF? Always MSF is 25 basis points above repo. Always. SDF is always 25 basis points below repo. Always. Who fixes the repo rate? MPC, Monetary Policy Committee. So next, let's say now the repo rate is 5.50. MSF कितना होगा फिर? 5.75. SDF कितना होगा? 5.25. Can you add or can you find out the window size? 5.75 minus 5.2. How much is the width of the window? 50 basis points. It is always 50 basis points, always. Let's say tomorrow, if the repo rate is increased to 6%, what will be the value of MSF? It will become 6.25. SDF कितना होगा? 5.75. If this becomes 5, this will become 5.25, this will become 4.75, always. Earlier, in place of SDF, what was there here before? Reverse repo. Any idea when was SDF introduced, in which year? Standing deposit facility was introduced in which year? This is the most basic thing. It was introduced in March 2022. It was introduced in 2022. After its introduction, SDF has now replaced what? Reverse repo. So reverse repo is no longer used now. You got your point? Okay. Okay, all of you, see the first question. Practice MCQ number 1, quickly. You have in your handout? Yeah. MCQ number 1. The banks in India are taking more loans from the RBI. It was given in the last class. You have it from the last class? So just open if you have it from the last class. Okay. Please tell me the answer to this question. Take your time. You don't have? You don't have the handout? It is there. It must be there in the previous class handout. It's a second question. It's a second question. Okay. Yes. Anyone? If banks in India are taking more loans from the RBI and depositing less money with the RBI, they're taking more loans. So what do you think is the answer? There is deficit in the banking system liquidity, right? Okay, look at this question. Which among the following is likely to decrease the banking system liquidity in the Indian economy? Yes, only one. One option is not there. Okay, increase in demand for currency. It is inversely proportional to banking system liquidity. Decrease in credit deposit ratio. Inversely proportional, if the credit deposit ratio decreases, means banking system liquidity will increase. RBI's intervention to control the rupee depreciation. Yes, answer is 193 only. Clear? You did the other question. Okay, fine. MCQ number 3. To avoid confusion, just have a look at this question. The question number might be different in your this one. Yes? Huh? You mean to say the first statement is wrong? Why it is wrong? It says RBI gives short-term loans to the banks at what? It never gives loans at the prevailing repo rate. It is always giving loans at a more than the repo rate. So first statement is wrong. So option D. Practice MCQ number 4. An increase in loans relative to deposits leads to increase in the credit deposit ratio. Is the statement true? Loans have increased, deposits have decreased, so credit deposit ratio will increase. An increase in preference for shares and mutual funds could lead to decrease in the credit deposit ratio. Think of it. It's simple. It's not economy. It's actually it's CSAT. It's CSAT. Denominator value is reducing. If denominator value reduces, what happens to the ratio? Ratio value will increase. So it says leads to decrease, which is wrong. CDR cannot be more than 100%. I give an example. It can be more than 100%. So the right answer in this case is only 2. Sorry, only 1. Okay. It's not ideal. Okay, only 1. I would not say it should be any fixed value. I think it all depends upon the economic cycle which the economy is passing through. During inflation, it should be a different value. During recession, the value should be different. Depending upon the economic cycle, the value should change rather than having a fixed value. Is this part clear to everyone? Chalo, let's move to the next topic now. The next topic is with respect to FTA, free trade agreements. Okay. So let me just give you the background to this topic, FTA. See, India, UK have signed a FTA, free trade agreement, which is called as Economic Cooperation and Trade Agreement, ECTA. This agreement is India's 15th FTA, free trade agreement. With respect to this FTA, as far as the government is concerned, government says this agreement is a kind of game changer. Why? How many FTAs we have signed before this? 14 FTAs. And if you see all of these 14 FTAs, they are either with the developing countries or with the developed countries from the Asia. We did not had a full-fledged FTA with a Western country, developed country. So it is India's first FTA with a Western country. That's the first thing. That is why it is a game changer. Second thing, Commerce Minister Mr. Piyush Goyal, he has said that this FTA can be used as a template. You know, India is now negotiating FTA, which has become increasingly difficult. For example, the FTA with the USA or FTA with the European Union. US is not ready to give up its core interests, neither India is ready to give up its core interest. Same goes with the European Union as well. It is being said that this particular agreement with UK is like a template because we have been able to balance India's interest as well as UK's interest, which is what we need in our negotiation with US as well as European Union. And third, it is being said it will give us benefits in terms of job creation. It will help us promote inclusive growth. It will help us boost exports. How so? Let's understand this. If you see our agricultural exports, our total agricultural exports on an annual basis is $45 billion. This is what we are exporting to countries across the world. But to UK, our exports is just $0.8 billion. Don't you think it is too less? One of the reason is because when UK is importing our agricultural goods, it is imposing a custom duty which is as high as how much? 70%. By signing this FTA, the custom duty from 70% is going to reduce to how much? 0. Can you see the huge potential in terms of agricultural exports? And ultimately, who is going to benefit from this agricultural exports? Our farmers. Same way, if you see textiles, our total textile exports are around $36 billion. But to UK, we are exporting just $1.8 billion. Any reason why? Why have we not been able to export textiles to UK? Demand बहुत ज़्यादा है. Demand is always there, especially for Indian textiles. Demand is always there. There's something else. Yes, we are facing tough competition. From which countries? We are facing tough competition from smaller economies like Bangladesh, Vietnam, Pakistan, Cambodia. These countries are exporting more textiles to UK. And these countries are having duty-free access. When I say duty-free access means when UK is importing textiles from these countries, UK is not imposing any kind of customs duty. When UK imposes custom duty on our textiles, what will happen to cost of our textiles? Increases as compared to textiles from Pakistan, Cambodia, Vietnam or Bangladesh. So obviously it is hurting our textile industry. By signing this FTA, the custom duty on textile is going to reduce to 0. Our textiles will be as competitive as textiles from Bangladesh, Vietnam, Cambodia. And considering that our textile industry is quite vibrant as compared to those textile industries, we can expect more export of textiles. This becomes very important because textile industry is something which is known for what? For job creation. Clear with this point, everyone? So there are a number of things which India is going to get immensely benefited from the FTAs. That is why Mr. Piyush Goyal has called this FTA as a game changer. He has called this particular FTA as a kind of template which India can use it. On the contrary, there is a think tank in India called as Global Trade Research Initiative. It's a think tank. This think tank has said, okay, see, whenever we negotiate FTA, right, there are two interests which India keeps in mind. One is what is called as offensive interest. Offensive interest means we try to percolate or we try to capture the UK's market. That is our offensive interest. There is second type of interest which is called as defensive interest. Defensive means, as the name suggests, we must protect our domestic industry. By signing this FTA, we have taken care of what interest? Offensive interest. As seen in agricultural exports, as seen in textile exports, and so on. We are going to export more. But the problem here is we have not given due interest to our defense. Example, whenever you talk about FTA negotiations, which India is having, can you tell me what is the most sensitive item for India, which India says this is not something which we will compromise on? Agriculture is always sensitive. Okay, apart from agriculture, anything else? Huh? Yes, dairy, good. That is agriculture only, right? No. India is having trade talks with EU. And trade talks, जब मैं तैयारी करता था उस टाइम से चल रहा है. अभी तक खत्म नहीं हुआ trade talks. What are that controversial issues on India-EU trade talks which India is not agreeing to? Most important, India is obviously sensitive to agriculture. Apart from sensitive to agriculture, India is very sensitive to automobile industry. So far, India has never opened its automobile industry. When we import cars, luxury cars from other countries, the custom duty on import of cars is 100%. It can go up to 150%. Yeah. So it can go up to 100 to 150%, right? And so far, whenever we used to negotiate FTA with other countries, India said, this is something will not compromise. Something else apart from this, if you're ready to talk, we are ready. For the first time, which has not happened before, India is set to open its automobile sector to UK's companies. Now the custom duty on import of cars is 100%. From 100%, it is going to reduce to how much? 10%. Can you name some biggest automobile companies of UK? One of the biggest company is Jaguar Land Rover. It's one of the biggest companies. Have you seen a car called as Defender car? देखा होगा ना? Right now that car is very costly in India. Because of this FTA, the car is going to become very cheap. Not just Jaguar Land Rover, you can also say other companies like McLaren, NFS देख खेला होगा बचपन में, Need for Speed video game, McLaren cars. Apart from that, you must have heard of this company, Aston Martin. These cars, I was just reading about how many McLaren cars does India has right now. In some other source, it is mentioned somewhere less than 100. I'm not actually able to remember the figure, but throughout India, we have just less than 100 McLaren cars because it is costly to import the cars. But because of this FTA, what is might happen is the cars which is going to be imported from UK is going to become much cheaper. This may affect our automobile sector. How much is the contribution of automobile sector? If you see, automobile sector contributes 7% of our GDP. You might not worried, 7% है ना? But there's something else. Automobile sector contributes 49% to our manufacturing sector. Whatever growth which India has had in manufacturing sector, make in India, all of that is because of what sector? Manufacturing. Sorry, automobile sector. Is this part clear? Not just automobiles, there are other sub-sectors which are going to get compromised. The same thing was said with respect to import of smartphones into India. Like she's saying that these are the cars which will be bought only by richer people. But understand, India has become so aspirational these days. Even middle class has become very aspirational. Getting it? So it might obviously not affect the people who might purchase Wagoner, but people who might purchase Honda City or let's say Jeep, something about 20 to 25 lakhs, they might go for these kind of cars. Clear with that? They were imported into India at 100% custom duty, which was costly. Now they can import them at just 10% custom duty. They'll become cheaper. Which one? No, what might happen is instead of coming and manufacturing in India, let's say Jaguar Land Rover, instead of manufacturing the Defender car in India, it already had a manufacturing capacity in UK. From there, it can directly export the car, a completely built unit to India, which might affect our domestic manufacture. Is this part clear to everyone? This is a basic overview. We'll get into depth with respect to the free trade agreement. We should always see the positive things in life. No. We are going to reduce the custom duty. Okay. So as far as this topic is concerned, what all things we are going to cover, you can just see. Stages of trade integration, FTAs signed by India, then present status of India's bilateral trade with UK, and the benefits and challenges of FTAs. Okay. You can see this question, previous year question. The term regional comprehensive economic partnership often appears in the news in the context of. It was in news that year. It is a regional trading agreement. So the right answer here is with respect to ASEAN. It is with respect to ASEAN. Can you see this question? Prelims 2017. Broad-based trade and investment agreement is sometimes seen in news in the context of negotiations held between India and, any idea? Remember I told you about a free trade agreement which is under negotiation since the time I was preparing for exam. It is European Union. Okay. Then you can see in prelims 2023 a question on present status of India's trade. India accounts for 3.2% of global export of goods. India accounts for 1.8% of global export of goods. First statement is wrong. Because the first statement is wrong, the answer in this case is D. Prelims 2020. Can you see what is here? The question is specifically about India's bilateral trade. So if you see the previous year questions, based upon the previous year question, you can see the questions are asked with respect to regional trade agreements, which India is negotiating, or with respect to free trade agreement, or the present status of India's bilateral trade with a particular country. Which country we are talking about? UK. So that is why you need to know the present status of India's bilateral trade with the UK. Is this part clear? So let's start with the first thing, that is stages of trade integration. Okay. I hope you could see this diagram in your notes. Okay. Okay, just pay attention. What do you mean by trade integration? What do you mean by trade integration? Trade integration basically refers to free flow of goods, services, investment, people between the countries. If there is free flow of goods, services, investment, people between the countries, then we say that it is a stage of trade integration. And I hope you are able to see the Venn diagram here. The least level of trade integration, what is it called as? Preferential trade agreement. And as you move up the hierarchy, the extent of trade integration will keep on increasing. The highest level of trade integration that can take place between the countries is what is called as economic union. The least amount of trade integration is preferential trade agreement. It might so happen that a particular country may initially start with PTA, preferential trade agreement. After signing PTA, it can upgrade this to FTA. From FTA, it can go to comprehensive economic cooperation agreement, step by step. Or it is not needed to follow this step by step approach. Directly, we can go ahead and sign this agreement directly by skipping PTA and FTA. So let's start with the first one, preferential trade agreement. So please write down there against the arrow mark. Countries reduce customs duty. Countries reduce customs duty on certain goods traded between them. On certain goods traded between them. These goods are placed in positive list. These goods are placed in positive list. Please write the word positive within the inverted commas, positive list. Okay, let's understand what is this preferential trade agreement. Let's say this is India and this is Chile. India and Chile, as you can see, we have signed a preferential trade agreement under which India, when it is importing certain goods, not all, on certain goods, India has decided to reduce the customs duty. Some of these goods include, for example, copper. Now this copper on which custom duty is reduced, it is placed in a list which is called as what list? Positive list. Same way, if India is exporting certain goods to Chile, on those certain goods, Chile has decided to reduce the customs duty. And on these goods, Chile will have its own what list? Positive list. For example, if you look at India-Chile PTA, in that positive list, you have textile and you also have pharmaceutical drugs, medicines. So the scope of preferential trade agreement is very, very limited to certain few goods only. Next, right? Free trade agreement. Free trade agreement. Against free trade agreement, you can write customs duty. Customs duty is eliminated. Customs duty is eliminated on almost all the goods. On almost all the goods traded between the countries. On almost all the goods traded between the countries. Full stop. The goods on which customs duty is not reduced, the goods on which customs duty is not reduced, the goods on which customs duty is not reduced are placed under, yes, you tell me what list do you think it will be here? यहाँ पे negative list होगा, are placed under negative list. So just take a moment and understand positive list and negative list. Positive list is part of which agreement? Preferential trade agreement. Positive list will have those goods on which custom duty will be reduced. Negative list is part of free trade agreement. Negative list will include those goods on which custom duty will not be reduced at all. For example, if you see India and UK. From UK, on 91% of goods, India has decided to eliminate customs duty. So remaining 9% of goods will be placed in what list for India? Negative list. If UK is importing on 99% of the goods, UK will not impose any kind of custom duty. Only on 1% of goods, UK will impose custom duty, and that 1% will be part of the negative list. Next, right? Okay. Let me just read out the full form of this. Comprehensive Economic Cooperation Agreement. Comprehensive Economic Partnership Agreement. Comprehensive Economic Cooperation and Partnership Agreement. And last one is Economic Cooperation and Trade Agreement. Doesn't make any difference. All of these things means the same. Like in IR, for Russia, India will call as strategic partner. For US, it will call by some other name. But ultimately, all of these countries for India will be called as what? Strategic partners only. Same. There's difference only in terms of nomenclature. But otherwise, everything is same. Okay, so what do you think will be covered in SICA, SIPA, and all these things? No? There's no list. Nahi. There's always a list as far as India is concerned. Okay, please write. We'll come to that. Right? Free flow of goods. Free flow of goods, services, investment. Free flow of goods, services, investment, comma, IPRs, intellectual property rights, comma, mutual recognition agreements, mutual recognition agreements, comma, government procurement, government procurement, etc. Okay, so when we say FTA, FTA is mostly limited to goods, and in some cases it can also include goods and services. SICA or SIPA goes one step ahead. It will include obviously goods. It will also include services. It will also include what? Investment. Bilateral flow of investment between the countries. It will also have an agreement for protection of what? IPRs, intellectual property rights like patents. How it is there, we'll discuss in the context of India, UK. It will also have what is called as mutual recognition agreement. Let's understand what is this mutual recognition agreement. Generally, let's say if you get a academic degree in India, let's say you get a doctor's degree in India, you cannot directly go and practice in some other country like US. What you have to do, you have to go there, you have to separately appear for their exam. Only if you clear the exam there, you will be allowed to do a practice. Now, recently you must have seen a lot of Indian people, they go and complete their medical degree in countries like China, Russia, Ukraine, and so on. But once these people come back to India, we don't allow them to practice. We say you have to clear our exam, and clearing that exam is not an easy task. It is a Herculean task. What mutual recognition agreement does is, it says if you get a degree in India, that degree will also be recognized in the other country with which we have signed a SIPA. I hope you understood this. Example being India, UAE. India, UAE have signed for a mutual recognition agreement where we are going to recognize the nursing degrees. You must have seen a lot of nurses from India, they go and work in UAE. How do you make it easier to go and work them in UAE? By ensuring that UAE recognizes the nursing degree that we award to our nurses in India. This is what is called as mutual recognition agreement. I hope you understood this point, everyone. It is mutually, like the name says, mutual recognition agreement. Okay, so it will be mutually recognized. I'll just come to that. Don't worry. He's more concerned ki what is happening with UK. With UK, what kind of agreement it is. We'll come to that. With UK also. With UK also, we have signed a mutual recognition agreement. That mutual recognition agreement is going to cover, obviously, nursing is going to be covered. Apart from nursing, it is also going to cover the CAs, chartered accountants, accounting. So if someone has passed a CA exam in India, they can go and practice CA even in UK as well as vice versa. I hope you understood what is this mutual recognition agreement, everyone. In generally PTA only, it is only goods. Okay, next is government procurement. What is the meaning of government procurement? Let's see. Let's say I am the government, and let's say I want to distribute laptops to the school students. To distribute laptops to school students, I will buy the laptops from the companies. Right now, I as an Indian government will buy the laptops only from the Indian companies. But if we have a government procurement as part of SEPA, what will happen is, if I am the Indian government, apart from buying from Indian companies, I can also buy it from other countries with which we have a SECA or a SEPA. I hope you understood this. Now, for example, let's say with Japan, you could see here, with Japan, we have a SEPA. Government wants to build a software for managing the health records of senior citizens. To procure that software, government can procure the software from Indian companies like Infosys, Wipro, HCL, or it can also procure it from Japan-based companies as well. This is as far as India is concerned. Same if Japan wants to procure something, it can procure it from Japanese companies also as well as Indian companies also. That is what is government procurement, which generally is not there in what? Your FTA. It is generally in SECA, SEPA, and other things. Government procurement. Government procurement is if government is purchasing certain goods, right? And if there is a government procurement clause in SEPA, government will not only procure from Indian companies, it can also procure it from other companies, provided with that country India has a SEPA or SECA. Like I gave an example of India and Japan. So we can procure it even from Japanese based companies as well. Huh. No, these companies will be allowed to place their bids. Whoever is willing to, sell me the laptop at the lowest price from that particular company, I'll purchase it. It's like a bidding process. Okay. Next, you can write down customs union. Customs union, you can write down FTA plus common customs duty. FTA plus common customs duty. FTA plus common customs duty on import of goods from another country. From another country. Okay. Please pay attention. In South Africa, there is a customs union called as South African Customs Union, which basically includes countries such as South Africa, Namibia, Botswana, and within South Africa also there are two inland countries. Which are those? Lesotho and Eswatini. Yes. Okay. So all of this, their countries have come together. They form South African Customs Union. It means between these countries, they already have a FTA. They have an FTA. Plus, they will also have a common tariffs when they import goods from any other country, which means if South Africa is importing mobile from India, and if South Africa is importing at 10%, Namibia will also import mobile from India at what percentage? 10%. Among themselves, they not impose custom duty. But when they're importing goods from third country, everyone will have the same custom duty. That is what we call it as customs union. Because they have a common custom duty, that's why you have this word customs union. I hope you understood this. Okay. Benefit of this is basically to ensure that one country should not import goods at lower customs duty and sell it to another country. It might so happen that Botswana can import mobile phone from India at 0%. Same mobile phone, it may sell it to Namibia and South Africa, which is obviously going to hurt Namibia and South Africa. To ensure that kind of coordination, it is said everyone should import goods at same custom duty. Okay. Next one. Common market. Okay, what do you think is common market? You can write customs union plus free movement of people. Customs union plus free movement of people. It basically means people can freely move from one country to another without any kind of unnecessary restrictions. Example of that would be EU is a good example, but I don't want to take EU's example here because I'll take the example here, which is economic union. One example of common market is, you can write example, CARICOM, Caribbean Community. CARICOM, write it in CARICOM, CARICOM, Caribbean Community. All of you must have heard about Caribbean islands, right? All of these countries have come together and they have formed what is called as a common market. Where there is free movement of people from one country to another country. Last is economic union. You can write economic union, right? Common market plus harmonization of common market plus harmonization of monetary and fiscal policies plus common currency. And that is where you have the example of European Union, EU. Is this part clear? So these are the stages of trade integration. You can see the list of all the FTAs. I think it is in the handout as well. List of FTAs signed by India. So I told you with UK, India has signed its 15th FTA. As far as your prelims examination is concerned, you may very well get a question as to with which all countries has India signed a free trade agreement. So please remember the list of the countries. It is quite factual. Apart from FTAs, we also signed a PTA, Preferential Trade Agreement. Can you see there is a regional grouping called as Mercosur. It is from South America, which basically includes countries such as Brazil, Argentina, Uruguay, and Paraguay. Like in South Asia, we have SAARC. Similar to that, in South America, they have Mercosur. With Mercosur, we have signed a preferential trade agreement. Is this part clear to everyone? Okay. So let's discuss about the India-UK bilateral trade. Present status. Okay. All of you just see here. Right from 2015 to 2024, in last 10 years, what is the trend in the bilateral trade between India and UK? Increase or decreased? Broadly, as you can see, broadly the trade has increased. But for 1 year, the trade reduced. Which year? 2020. There was fall in the bilateral trade. But generally, if you look at the trend between India and UK, generally, except for 1 year, the bilateral trade has increased. Now, if you see the total volume of bilateral trade, this is in terms of pound. But generally, we express this in terms of dollars. The present volume of bilateral trade between India and UK, it is around $56 billion. That is the present volume, which includes $23 billion worth goods and $33 billion worth services. So can you see what is more prominent with UK, goods or services? Services trade is more prominent, right? So write some prelims pointers. You have some space there? Space is there? Okay, please write on this pointers there. UK is India's 16th largest trade partner. UK is India's 16th largest trade partner. Which is India's largest trade partner? Until last year it was US, but last year China has already overtaken US, and right now China is India's largest trading partner. UK is not that prominent. It is India's 16th largest trading partner. But please continue. However, UK is India's second largest market for IT services. Second largest market for IT services after US. Next you can write India is UK's 11th largest trading partner. India is UK's 11th largest trading partner. Third, the bilateral trade between India and UK. The bilateral trade between India and UK has steadily increased in the last decade. Except during 2020. Next, the present volume of bilateral trade. The present volume of bilateral trade is around $56 billion. In the bracket you can write 23 billion goods, 33 billion services. Okay, everyone? Fine. Now we are going to get into the mains part. Mains part here is where we are going to carry out a critical analysis of the free trade agreement. No. China is not part of SAARC, na? Okay. Now, the problem with respect to India's FTA with UK is the source for reading this information is spread across multiple newspapers. So what I have done to make your understanding about FTA is very simple, I have prepared a kind of table. Can you see the table there? On one side, what I've highlighted, what are the criteria? Second, what is the feature? And from that feature, what benefit is India getting and what are the challenges for India? So this is how you have everything about India's FTA with UK in one particular place. So let's start with the first discussion. The first discussion is about trade concessions. Huh. Huh, we'll discuss that. Do not worry. Okay. So let's start with the tariff concessions. Okay, please pay attention. I'll dictate. I will take up one part of the discussion. I will discuss it for 5 to 10 minutes. After that, I will dictate what has to be written in short. Whatever I'm dictating, just replicate that in your answers, main answers. That is more than sufficient. So let's understand the tariff concessions. India and UK, under this economic cooperation and agreement, what India has committed is, India has committed that on 91% of goods that it imports from UK, we will eliminate the customs duty. In return, UK has committed that on 99% of goods which it imports from India, it will eliminate the customs duty. This is a feature. As far as the benefits of this feature is concerned, the first biggest beneficiary, which I have already explained to you, is what? Agriculture. How much is the total volume of agricultural exports of India? $45 billion. Out of which, how much we are exporting to UK? It's $0.8 billion. Why it is higher? Sorry, why is our exports to UK so less? Because of higher custom duty. How much is the custom duty? It might increase to almost 70%. So we can increase our agricultural exports. I have also highlighted about the textiles. This is the second benefit. Our total global volume of textile export is $36 billion, out of which UK imports only $1.8 billion. The reason why India has not been able to export more textiles is because other countries face a much better market there, because their goods are able to enter the UK market by lower customs duty. That's the second thing. Third, let me ask you a question. If you look at our exports, I can rank different exports of India in terms of commodity, and second, in terms of commodity groups. Commodity means I'm looking at one single commodity. If you see in terms of single commodity, India's one of the largest export is actually, yes, petroleum goods. But if I want to rank India's exports in terms of commodity groups, which group do you think accounts for the highest share in India's exports? It is not pharmaceutical. I'm talking about merchandise, goods. IT is a service. Anyone? Which commodity group accounts for the highest share? Now this is surprising to almost everyone. India is no longer what we used to think. India is the exporter of spices. That was in ancient India. India has come a long way now. No. Right now, if you look at our export basket, in terms of commodity group, which commodity group accounts for the highest share? That is my question. The highest as a group, according to economic survey, is what is called as, yes, engineering goods. Please remember this from the perspective of prelims also. Now, what do we include in engineering goods, by the way? Engineering goods will include all the capital machinery, which is in turn used to produce other goods, capital machinery. It will also include electrical equipment, such as transformers. It will also include auto components. It will also include steel. So if you look at this engineering goods as a group, it is right now accounting for 1/4 of our exports. Don't you think India has come a long way that way? 1/4 of our exports is dominated by engineering goods. So by signing this FTA with UK, one of the biggest beneficiary is going to be engineering goods. Right now, when UK is importing our engineering goods, right, it is imposing a customs duty of 18% right now. Immediately, this 18% custom duty is going to become 0% custom duty. So what is going to happen to India's export of machinery, electrical equipment, auto components, steel? It is going to increase. So look how we have taken care. We have taken care of our farmers. We have taken care of our labor-intensive industries, which is what? Textile. And we have also taken care of capital-intensive industries as well, because what is engineering goods? It is capital-intensive. So, everyone. So even the engineering goods are going to get benefited out of this. Obviously, that's a big. I'll discuss about that in the challenges. Okay. Is this part clear so far? Apart from that, India has, to a certain extent, also taken care of its defensive interest as well. How it has taken care of defensive interests? Number one, there are certain agricultural goods. On these agricultural goods, India said, we will not reduce the customs duty. Which means this goods will be going to be part of which list? Negative list. And that obviously includes our dairy sector. You know, one of the biggest demand of US government is they want us to open up our dairy sector, which India has clearly said will not open up our dairy sector. In spite of demands coming from UK, we have said we will not open up our dairy sector. We have also said we will not open up our cereals, which happens to be staple crops. We will not also open up edible oils. We have taken care of this thing. Apart from that, what we have also done, which is very good, which can be used as a template in the negotiation with other countries, is India has committed that on 91% of the goods, we will eliminate the custom duty. But what's the good thing here is we have said only on 25% of the goods, immediately we will reduce it to 0. Immediately we'll reduce to 0. For rest of the goods, we will reduce the customs duty in a gradual manner. So do not expect कि एक बार FTA sign हो गया तो on Delhi roads will find McLaren cars or Aston Martin cars. इतना जल्दी नहीं आने वाला है, because India has taken care. We have said we will reduce the custom duty from 100% to 10%, but not immediately. We will reduce it in a phase-wise manner, like 2 years, 5 years, and 10 years. The idea here is we'll use that as a small window so as to attract these companies to come and manufacture the cars in India only. Because ultimately that is what India wants. So can you see here, India has let go of automobiles, but at the same time, it has safeguarded its interest as well. That is why it is being said this is something, a template which India you can use for negotiate with Trump. Clear with that? Apart from that, only 25% of the goods will have 0% custom duty to begin with. यहाँ तक clear है? So these are the benefits. So you can write on the benefits. The features first. Tariff concessions, write on the feature. India to reduce customs duty on 91% of the goods. India to reduce customs duty on 91% of goods imported from UK, while UK would reduce customs duty on 99% of the goods imported from India. While UK would reduce customs duty on 99% of the goods imported from India. Benefits you can write. Number 1, agriculture. Put a hyphen and write out of $45 billion worth agricultural exports. Out of $45 billion worth agricultural exports, UK accounts for just $0.8 billion. UK accounts for just $0.8 billion due to higher customs duty of 70%. Due to higher customs duty of 70%. Full stop. FTA, full stop. FTA is expected to increase agricultural exports by 50%. FTA is expected to increase agricultural exports by 50% in next 3 years. I hope that statement is quite important, that it is going to increase our agricultural export by 50%. This should be there in your answer. Second point, textiles. Out of $36 billion worth textile exports, comma, UK accounts for just $1.8 billion due to easier market access given to India's competitors. Full stop. Next, engineering goods. Elimination of customs duty from 18% to 0%, would boost exports. Next, defensive interest. Under that, number one, sensitive items like agriculture. Sensitive items like agriculture in the bracket, dairy, cereals, edible oils, kept outside. Second point under this, immediate elimination of customs duty. Second point, immediate elimination of customs duty on only 25% of the goods. Immediate elimination of customs duty on only 25% of the goods. I hope you'll be able to elaborate on that, right? It's just a pointer that you have written. Okay, this is the benefit. Let's see what is the challenge. With respect to challenge, I've already given you one challenge, that is with respect to automobile sector. I've already explained about the automobile sector. I'll dictate this part later. Apart from automobile sector, another problem is, according to a think tank known as Global Trade Research Institute, India is going to face a revenue loss because we are going to eliminate the custom duty on import of goods. India may face a revenue loss of almost around 4,000 crores. This is a loss which India is going to face only in the first year. Obviously, that is going to increase in the years to come. For every year, we're going to face this much revenue loss because we'll not be collecting the custom duty on import of goods from UK. That is the second problem. The third problem is with respect to the alcoholic beverages. With respect to alcoholic beverages, always India has been very sensitive to alcoholic beverages. Like whenever we are signing a free trade agreement, be it with the US, European Union, just like how we have safeguarded our automobile sector, we have always safeguarded our alcoholic beverages industry. The reason is this industry contributes almost 3% of our GDP. And I told you contribution of automobile sector, how much it is? 7% of GDP. So not only we have opened up our automobile sector, we have also opened up our alcoholic beverages. So if you generally see the import duty on scotch and whiskey, which India imports from UK, the customs duty is around 150%. Immediately, I'm repeating, immediately India is set to reduce the customs duty on scotch and whiskey, which is going to be imported from UK. It is going to be reduced from 150% to somewhere around 70%. So what is going to happen to our alcoholic beverages domestic industry? It might get adversely affected. So two industries are going to get adversely affected, contributing cumulatively 7 plus 3, how much percentage of GDP? 10% of a GDP. Another big problem is, have you heard of carbon border adjustment mechanism? It is a proposal put forward by European Union. EU has said if it is importing goods which has led to increase in greenhouse gas emissions like iron and steel, cement, on such goods, EU is set to increase the tax, which is called as carbon border adjustment mechanism. UK has exited from EU. We call it as Brexit, right? But what UK has proposed is, just like EU, even UK is going to impose carbon border adjustment mechanism from the year 2027. Right now, India is happy. I told you engineering goods, na? One of the engineering goods is iron and steel. We are happy that our iron and steel companies can export iron and steel to UK at 0% custom duty. But for how many years? Only 2 years. Because after 2027, UK is going to impose carbon border adjustment mechanism, which means our steel will become more costly there. And on the other hand, think of it. UK can easily export goods to India, and we have not going to impose something like carbon border adjustment mechanism. Don't you think it is an inequitable treatment where we are giving more preference to UK, but we are not going to get any kind of benefit out of this? So according to some people, it is being said when we were negotiating the FTA with the UK, we should have clearly demanded from UK, saying that, look, we will agree to FTA provided you decide not to impose carbon border adjustment mechanism from what? On Indian goods. Don't you think that should be a trump card for us while negotiating, which India has not clearly used it? So India's export of engineering goods can increase only until 2027. But after 2027, it is very uncertain. So write down problems. First one is automobile sector. Automobile sector. Customs duty is going to be reduced from 100% to 10%. Customs duty is going to be reduced from 100% to 10%. And hence affect automobile sector. In the bracket, write 7% of GDP and 49% of manufacturing. 7% of GDP and 49% of manufacturing. Next point. Decrease in import duty. Of alcoholic beverages from 150% to 70% would affect domestic industry. In the bracket, right? 3% of GDP. Third point, a revenue loss of 4,000 crores. Fourth point, 4,000 crores. Fourth point, inequitable treatment as UK has a right to impose CBAM on Indian goods from 2027. Okay, let's look into the next one. The next one is services, right? Okay, with respect to services, we have signed a FTA which covers almost 27 sectors. These sectors basically include IT enabled services. Then it also includes architecture, then accounting, nursing. So almost 27 sectors are covered in this FTA. Let's see what are the benefits which India is going to get from this FTA and services. Point number 1. You can parallelly start writing this. Okay, this is taking time. So with respect to benefits on the services sector, let's see the first benefit. The first benefit here is we have signed mutual recognition agreement between India and UK. I have already explained to you what is mutual recognition agreement. This mutual recognition agreement is going to be for 3 things. It is going to be for nursing. It is also going to be for accounting, like I said, for chartered accountants. And third one is architecture. For these three things, we have signed a mutual recognition agreement, which basically makes it easier for Indian nurses, Indian architects, as well as Indian chartered accountants to work in UK. That's the first thing. Second, which is very significant, is with respect to mobility of the professionals. With respect to mobility of professionals, UK has given a commitment of temporary stay for Indian professionals in 27 sectors. Okay. It means that people from India who are into these services, right? We can easily go and stay in UK for a temporary period of time. Example being a software engineer from India, he can go and search, he can go and work in UK for temporary period. Same can be said about nurses, educators, as well as doctors as well. They can go and stay there temporary and do the work. Good thing here, for the first time, UK has said no economic need test. Please pay attention. You can write down later. This is a little complicated. What is this economic need test? Earlier, पहले क्या होता था? Let's say there is a company in UK. This company in UK wants to hire a employee, a person from India. Under this economic need test, the UK based company had to give a proof that in UK there is no person who has that level of skill set, or it had to give a proof that there is shortage of workers in that particular sector. Only then the UK based company can hire a Indian person. Example of that is, let's say there is a UK based software company. If UK based software company is hiring a Indian software employee, UK based software company has to give a proof to UK government. I am hiring this person because there's shortage of workers in this particular category in UK itself. But for the first time, what UK has said, we said we will allow our UK based companies to hire Indian professionals without any kind of economic need test. No need to prove. That's a good thing. Second good thing is without any kind of limits. No quantitative limits on employment of Indian workers. So what is the good thing is, you know what India is rich in? India is obviously rich in human resources. So हम goods to export नहीं कर पा रहे हैं. So what can we export? लोगों को export कर देंगे. That's what India is trying to do that. We have accepted कि चलो ठीक है, goods तो possible नहीं है. It is China has taken care of goods. Let's focus on our strength, which is human resources. So India has signed an agreement which will make it easier for Indian professionals to go and work there because of these two things. No economic need test, and second one is without any kind of restrictions. Is that clear to everyone? Apart from that, what UK has also done, it has fixed a quota, a limit, कि compulsorily, I repeat, compulsorily, we will allow certain number of yoga instructors, classical musicians, and chefs to work in UK. You must understand, for other things, right? UK has not given a commitment कि for sure will allow this many people in other sectors. But for these three sectors, yoga instructors, classical musicians and chefs. UK has said for sure, no matter what, every year we will give permission to these many number of people to come and work in UK. So this is the third thing. And fourth and very good is what is called as double contribution scheme. Double contribution scheme. Let's understand what is this double contribution scheme. Earlier, what used to happen is, let's say there's an Indian company. This Indian company is sending a Indian employee to work on an offsite project in UK. What this Indian company was required to do, it was required to pay 20% of the salary to UK's insurance system. You know, all the employees have this insurance, right? So when it used to send the Indian employees to UK, there they have to pay the insurance. Why it is a problem is because they are paying insurance to UK also, and same insurance they are paying in India also. What will happen to Indian companies who are sending their employees to UK? There is double burden because they are making contribution to insurance in India also, they are making contribution in UK also. Burden will increase. Problem number two, what do you think will happen to take home salary of Indian employee? Take home salary to kam ho jayega na? Because if I am working in UK, my insurance is deducted in India also, my insurance is deducted in UK also. My take home salary will reduce. So now, under double contribution scheme, now the government has said no need to pay for insurance in UK, provided if you send an employee for less than 3 years. I'm repeating, for how much duration? 3 years. More than 3 years, then you have to make contribution there also, here also. But if it is less than 3 years, no need to pay contribution. So I'm writing it here. Earlier, Indian companies had to pay double insurance on Indian employees sent to UK. Now, no need to pay insurance in UK for a period of 3 years. Okay. Fine. Let's look at the challenges side. Okay. I will come to that. That's the second. That's the challenge part. Okay, that's what I'm getting into. Write the challenge. First point you can write in the challenge. UK's FTA with India. UK's FTA with India is subject to UK's point-based immigration system. Is subject to UK's point-based immigration system. Okay, please pay attention. What it is basically. In UK, they have come up with what is called as point-based system for immigration. It is a system which UK uses in order to give work visas to people from other countries. Look at the word point-based. What UK basically does is, whenever it is awarding work visa, it will, number one, look at the skill set of a particular person. Second, it will look at what kind of job the person is doing. Third, it will look at how much salary he is going to earn in UK. And fourth, most importantly, whether he has a job offer from UK or not. Based upon this four to five things, it will award point. And जो point सबसे ज़्यादा होता है, only to those persons it will give the work visa. It means, let's say you have people working as carpenters, plumbers. Look at their rating on skills. Their rating will be very less. But if you have people who are very highly skilled, like big data, artificial intelligence, machine learning, on that particular point, their rating will be very high. So we have signed an agreement, no doubt. But this agreement is not going to override UK's point-based immigration system. Ultimately, who are the people who are going to move into UK and work? Ultimately, highly skilled people. Highly skilled people, that to be who are in very good job. What kind of job? Not blue collar job. What it is? White collar job. They are earning good amount of salary, and more importantly, you should have a job offer also. Just because I'm an IT engineer, I completed my engineering in India, I will not go and work in UK because UK has signed a FTA. It is wrong to think like that. Understand that. So this is the biggest problem. And you know how strong anti-immigration wave sentiment is in UK. So with that kind of anti-immigration sentiment, it is very hard to expect that India will be able to take advantage of this FTA. Only time will tell us to what extent India will be able to benefit from this. Clear with that? Second point. Post-study work visa. Post-study work visa. Post-study work visa not accepted by UK. Post-study work visa not accepted by UK. India had one very big demand. India's demand was, it said, look, already number of our students are studying in UK universities. What you should do, once they complete their studies, immediately after completing their studies, please give them work visa so that they can continue to stay in UK and do the job. UK said no. We are giving them just study visa. If they want to come to UK for work, once again they have to pass through the system of what? Point-based immigration. Clear with that? Okay. Next one is patents. I think the second criteria is already done. Services is done. Third, please turn the page. I think the third one is IPRs. Okay. I just need 5 minutes, 5 to 10 minutes more. Is that okay? Hi, it should be okay. Okay. Let's talk about IPRs, intellectual property rights. Okay. Let's see about IPRs. Okay. With respect to IPRs, let's focus on the benefits. I'll explain this. The first biggest benefit for as far as IPRs is concerned is with respect to the patents. As far as patents are concerned, okay. For patents, both India and UK have said we will provide for joint recognition of patents. When I say joint recognition of patents means if India and UK based companies come together, they do a research and development. We will allow India and UK based companies to file a joint patent, which is good because it's in a way will promote a collaboration between India and UK based companies when it comes to patents. Is that clear? Apart from that, what we have also said is with respect to patents, we have a problem of what is called as evergreening. What's the duration of patent? What's the duration of patent? For how long you get a patent? Under TRIPS, the minimum duration is 20 years. Let's say I develop a product. After developing a product, only I will have a exclusive monopoly to manufacture the product for next 20 years. After 20 years, even others can also manufacture the product. You know what companies are doing these days? Let's say 19 years are completed. एक साल में अभी पेटेंट एक्सपायर होने वाला है. What they'll generally do, they'll add a minor modification to the product. By adding a minor modification for the product, they'll say ये बिल्कुल नया product है. So I want a extension of patent for another 20 more years. The problem in this case is patent which is supposed to be for only 20 years will become what? Evergreen. This has already happened in India with respect to a company called as Novartis. It went to Supreme Court of India also. And in fact, the Supreme Court of India said extension to patent will be given only in certain substantial amount of modification, not in case of minor modification. In India, UK, FTA, we have said, whatever Supreme Court has reiterated, we have said we will not extend patents to UK-based companies. We will extend patent only when UK-based companies are giving a substantial amount of modification, which is a good thing. Is that part clear, everyone? But what is bad about this problem? Okay. With respect to drugs, right? There are two things with respect to drugs. One is called as compulsory licensing, and second one is called as voluntary licensing. Let's understand the difference between the two. What's the biggest problem with patent? Is once a company gets a right to manufacture a drug, right? Only that company can sell the drug. And because it sells a monopoly, what it can do is it can sell the drug at a very, very high price. So because it is selling the drug at very high price, under the TRIPS agreement, India has got a right called as compulsory licensing. This right is given only to developing countries. Can anyone tell me what is compulsory licensing for drugs? Have you heard of this? Okay. There was a particular drug which was sold in Indian market. The name of the drug was called as Nexavar. This drug is used to treat kidney cancer. It's a patented drug. If someone who is suffering from kidney cancer wants to take this drug, right, monthly dosage is around rupees 8 lakh. Monthly, you have to spend 8 lakh only on medicines only, Nexavar. Why is the company able to do that? Because there's no competition to that. Don't you think it's very unfair to people who are suffering from kidney cancer? Already they are facing so much of emotional turmoil. On top of that, they are also facing this financial turmoil. So, under compulsory licensing, what we can do, that is Indian government can do, is we can say that this drug, Nexavar, can be manufactured by other company and it can be sold at a lesser cost to the poor people. I repeat, it can be sold at lesser cost. India has already issued compulsory licensing way back in 2013-14. Can you guess what was the price of Nexavar after compulsory licensing? From 8 lakhs, good, from 8 lakhs, can you see? How much did it get reduced to? Just 8,000. Whose loss it is, by the way? Company's loss, who has the patent. But whose benefit it is? India's benefit, obviously, and the people who are having this problem of kidney cancer. India fought under TRIPS platform. By fighting with the TRIPS, under TRIPS platform, we have ensured that the developing countries has this right. we, that is India, Brazil, and all the developing countries, global south, we have fought for this particular right of compulsory licensing. When we signed an FTA with UK, don't you think India should have insisted to UK that we will still have the right to issue compulsory licensing to UK-based companies also? Unfortunately, when we signed an FTA with UK, we have said we will promote what is called as voluntary licensing. Voluntary licensing mein, what happens is there's a company which has a patent. This company which has a patent will voluntarily enter into agreement with another company and voluntarily ask other company to manufacture the drug. For example, you have UK-based company may ask Indian company to manufacture a patented drug, for which the Indian company will pay to UK-based company what is called as what? Royalty. Now tell me, which is better, compulsory licensing or voluntary licensing? Compulsory licensing any day, which is much cheaper. Voluntary licensing, the UK-based company will ask Indian-based company to sell the patented drug. But what is the guarantee that the cost of the patented drug is less? It may still sell the patented drug at a very high cost. This is the biggest problem when it comes to IPR regime. And now concerns are raised कि अगर हमने UK को ये वाला लीवे दिया है, someone else is also watching. Who is watching this? Trump is watching. So Trump will obviously tweet saying that you have given this kind of leeway to UK, why you're not giving to USA? Are we not good friends? That's what he'll say. So that's the biggest problem now. Is that clear, everyone? So please write down. IPRs, in case of features, you can write collaboration for protection of intellectual property rights. Collaboration for protection of intellectual property rights. Okay, next. Benefits. Under the benefit, you can write down first evergreening of patents, not to be allowed. Evergreening of patents not to be allowed in the FTA. Challenges, you can write down. India has opted for voluntary licensing. India has opted for voluntary licensing instead of compulsory licensing. Under the FTA. Full stop. Under compulsory licensing, comma, Indian government, under compulsory licensing, comma, Indian government can ask the domestic pharma company, to sell patented drug at lower cost. ठीक है? Okay. Next is government procurement. You can write down government procurement. Enable under feature, right? Government procurement, under that enable Indian companies to bid for government procurement by UK. And vice versa. So what do you think is the benefit here? Basically, Indian companies can place a bid to whenever the UK government is procuring. So you can write benefit for the Indian companies benefit for the Indian companies as they can supply goods and services, benefit for the Indian companies as they can supply goods and services to UK government, to UK government. Okay, now please pay attention. So far, whenever we are talking about procurement by Indian government spends huge amount of money on procuring goods and services from private sector companies. And if you want to know how much is the total value of procurement, it is almost 15% of India's GDP, which is quite a big number. So it might be something as small as office chair, office table, to something as high end as laptop or computers. Total value of goods and services procured by different government ministries, departments and all, it is almost 15%. So far, this procurement was allowed only for Indian companies. And can I say that this government procurement policy was actually a tool used by the government to promote Make in India as well? Because government is acting like a buyer. It is purchasing goods. In a way, it is promoting domestic manufacturing as well. We never allowed foreign companies to place this kind of procurement. We have allowed this only for UAE last time. But now we are going to allow it even for which companies? UK-based companies. The problem is if government is procuring goods and services from UK-based companies, these goods and services might not be manufactured in India. They might be manufactured where? In UK. Which means now government procurement might not be used as a tool to promote domestic manufacturing. It may hurt Make in India. So, right. The challenges, government procurement worth 15% of GDP, is now open to UK based companies, and hence a setback to Make in India, Okay, the last one, please pay attention. Whenever we are negotiating FTA, there are two things which comes into play. One is trade issues and the second one is non-trade issues. Trade issues is something that we have covered so far, which basically includes movement of goods, services, IPRs, and so on. Non-trade issues is something related to, let's say, child labor, or let's say with respect to worker welfare, or let's say with respect to gender, women empowerment. Okay. Now, with respect to this non-trade issues, let's see here. Generally, when we sign a FTA with other countries, some of the countries, especially advanced countries, they used to say, you have to ensure that the children are not employed in the industries. Child labor is prohibited. Similarly, it used to say, if you're manufacturing goods, ensure that workers' rights are protected. What kind of rights? For example, there should be certain minimum number of hours. Workers' rights such as right to form trade unions, that right should be given. India always said, if you want to talk, let's talk on trade. We don't want to talk on non-trade issues. India is very clear on this thing. Why? Because we do think when it comes to non-trade issues, some external party should not dictate to us कि हमें क्या करना है. Who should be able to decide on all these things? We ourselves. India is very clear on this. So far, whenever FTA used to take place, India clearly said will not speak on non-trade issues at all. For the first time. with respect to UK. Unfortunately, we have included non-trade issues in the FTA. It means, look at the first thing, child labor. There's a number of industries in India where child labor is quite rampant. Yes, it is written in the law that child labor is prohibited in India, but the laws, as you know, are openly flouted. Like cracker industry in India mostly employs what? Children. So the problem here is, in future, UK can use this non-trade measure, non-trade issue as a kind of non-tariff barrier. UK might say, look, you're using children to produce crackers, so we will not import crackers. Apart from that, what will happen to compliance cost in India? We have to ensure that we are following all of this. Compliance costs will also increase. Same, UK says, ensure that workers are getting adequate rest. Workers are having minimum number of hours. They should not be overworked also. Compliance burden for sure will increase, and India might find it very difficult to enforce these norms. So far, with any country, we have not incorporated non-trade provisions. But unfortunately, this has got included in UK. And because Commerce Minister says it is acting as a template, it should not send a wrong signal to other countries like US and EU. Because even they should not say, let's incorporate this in our FTAs as well. Clear with that? So last point you can write down. Feature, you can write. Incorporation of non-trade issues. Incorporation of non-trade issues such as child labor, workers' welfare, women empowerment, environment, etc. Environment, etc. So what do you think is the benefit? If you want to find benefit, we could say that it will improve the labor welfare, right? Improve the labor welfare, promote women empowerment, improve labor welfare, promote women empowerment. Okay, that's a benefit. But the problem here is, problem number one, India's policies may be dictated by external parties. India's policies may be dictated by external parties. Second one is increase in compliance burden. Third, possible use of non-tariff barriers. Possible use of non-tariff barriers by UK in future. Possible use of non-tariff barriers by UK in future. Is this part clear? Okay. So we are done with this topic. So there's a practice question. You could see that question. It is there in the handout on India-UK FTA. Okay, just give me that. Okay, the practice question here is, the India-UK FTA is being hailed as a game changer, which could act as a template for India's future trade negotiations. In the light of this statement, discuss the potential benefits and challenges of trade deal for India. So please write this answer to this question and you can show it to me next week. Okay. Thank you. And if you have written answer for the previous question, you can just show it to me as well. Okay. Cancel this trade agreement also with at any time. Can you